Hello and welcome to the Talk Villa podcast. I'm your host, Smeet Paul, and in today's episode, we're taking a look back at Aston Villa's thrilling 4-3 comeback win over Brighton on Wednesday night. Villa found themselves 2-0 down inside the opening half hour of this one, but a double from Ollie Watkins before half-time got us back on the right track, and goals from Amadou, Onana and Donyell Malen completed the turnaround in the second half. As with every game, I'll be discussing my 5 key talking points as we have a deeper dive into the Brighton game. But first, let's have a listen to Unai Emery and his thoughts on our win as he spoke to Villa TV after the game.
Good evening. Very thankful for our supporters. They were here today, Wednesday, 7:30, traveling from Birmingham to be with us, to support us, to help us. And they are very important because the players, they felt it, how they were pushing and helping us. And of course, something give us a lot of motivation and to feel as well excited to try to share our wishes, their wishes together and their energy. And then how we reacted, how we didn't give up after the first and second goal, it really was fantastic. Of course, maybe the first goal was not corner, but we considered one goal. When we were more or less a little bit shocked, they scored the second goal. And we needed to react. We needed again to get our game plan. And when we scored the first goal, we kept the balance. And again, we were trying to dominate or trying to adapt, competing against them. And we scored the second goal. And the first half was fantastic how we achieved this result. And the second half again, we were keeping our game plan. And of course, very tough match, very difficult match. But the players responded fantastic.
That was Unai Emery speaking to Villa TV after our 4-3 win over Brighton. So on to my 5 key talking points then, and we'll start with a collective one this time, and that's the resilience within this group of Villa players. Although there are still periods in games where I feel as though we look a little bit disjointed, we're lacking cohesion and rhythm, the most important thing is that Villa continue to find ways to win games. At 2-0 down, it looked bleak. Decisions were going against us. Fortune seemed to have deserted us, as we saw with the intended cross that deflected in off Pau Torres for Brighton's second. And then you factor in the well-documented reliance on goals from distance. There was perhaps a concern that this could be the end of our winning run. Unai Emery and the players obviously had different ideas. I thought it was important that we didn't panic. We continued to play our way and stick to the game plan. And those were the foundations on which we built this impressive comeback win. So in that sense, I think the boss and the players deserve real credit for this turnaround, and it continues to develop and establish this winning culture and habit that has resilience at the heart of it. The second point is that it was a huge boost to see Ollie Watkins get back amongst the goals. Now, he spoke frankly about his struggles in his post-match interview. He conceded it's been difficult for him to go through a lengthy goal drought, and it was reported in midweek that he has been struggling with a knee injury now for over a year and has had to manage it accordingly and play through that. So with all those factors in mind, I think these goals were massive for both him and the team. Huge boost for his confidence and belief, of course. Continuing to do the right things will bring rewards. But as a collective, as a team, we need that firepower and consistent source of goals from our front man if we are to maintain this run of form. Hopefully he's now put that sort of anxious wait for a goal behind him and he can build on this and find consistency in his finishing. I thought his second goal was a really clinical finish, so that should give him a massive boost in confidence. The first one was a little bit scrappy, but he's not going to complain about that one. But hopefully now he's got that sort of breakthrough and he can build on this and continue to put together a run of goal-scoring form. On to the third point, and that was the decisive late save from Marco Bizot after his late call-up to the team. Now, I can only imagine that being flung into the starting lineup at the last minute can't be a particularly easy thing for a player to deal with in terms of preparation. But that's exactly what Bizot faced at Brighton. A back issue was the problem for Emiliano Martinez. He had to withdraw in the warm-up. Fortunately, the Sky Sports camera showed him sitting with the rest of the substitutes on the bench during the game. That would suggest that it's not a serious problem, but we'll have to obviously wait and see and hear more from Emery in his pre-match press conference on Friday to determine whether or not he's available for selection for the Arsenal game. But Bizot promoted to start in his place. Take away the contentious nature of the corner and the possible fouls and the build-up in the box. I think Bizot will be the first to say that he's disappointed that he didn't deal with that initial delivery particularly well in the lead up to the opening goal. I think he was deceived by the flight, but he could have been a bit stronger. So that was a disappointing start to the game. But I felt as though he made up for that error as the game progressed, and especially with that exceptional late save to deny Brighton a point and subsequently help us seal our 4-3 win. I thought Bizot was a massive reason as to why we were able to come away with a win. On to the fourth point then, and that is another Villa record broken by Unai Emery. So it feels as though Emery's on this path now where he's breaking every Villa coaching record that there is, and he surpasses another one every so often. The latest one of which is now that he holds the record for the most Premier League wins of any Villa manager. 62 wins in his 115 games in charge thus far, beating the previous record held by John Gregory, who has 61 wins in 147 games. So Emery got there quicker, and just the impressive nature of how we're doing it, it's just another unbelievable milestone for him to reach. Whether it was concerned questioning of him at the start of the season, or some of us perhaps genuinely felt as though we might have been in real trouble during that rut where we weren't scoring goals, we weren't winning games, Emery's quashed all that talk by inspiring and influencing this turnaround. It starts with him. So whether that's through his game planning, his preparation, or his in-game management and changes to impact these games, he's showing week in and week out that he is at an elite level in his field. So congratulations to him for another broken record, and just hopefully we can keep stacking up these wins and continuing to progress and enjoy success under his stewardship. On to the final point, and that is managing expectation and maintaining our winning habit. Now you've got Manchester City's wobbles, you've got Liverpool's collapse, you've got Arsenal's seemingly march towards the Premier League title this year. Villa have gone under the radar so far, and I think our slow start to the season was a big part of that, and still is a big part of that. However, I think if you now factor in our more recent form, our current position in the Premier League table, you can just picture Saturday's build-up. It's going to be about questions from pundits, whether or not we're title contenders, how high can they aim, is it Champions League or is it more than that? I think from a Villa perspective, from a fan perspective internally, it feels a little 2023 when we eventually missed the chance to go top of the Premier League after being held at home by Sheffield United just before Christmas. All this is to say is that we've actually had to deal with a level of expectation since Emery arrived. We've been tagged as favourites in European competitions. We've battled at the top end of the league table for a Champions League spot. And we've been in the mix for domestic silverware with our run to the FA Cup semi-finals last year. I think aside from the Champions League qualification, we've fallen short in a lot of those scenarios. So the hope is that we've learned from those experiences and we're now better equipped to deal with the pressure on and off the pitch, to keep our momentum going and hopefully stay in the mix to achieve our objectives this year. From a more realistic perspective, I think everyone internally is probably still looking at top 4, top 5 Champions League qualification. That is the main aim again this year. I think it's going to be a case of Emery and the players continuing to adopt the same mentality and mindset they have throughout the last 3 years, and that is next up, who are we playing, focus on that game, nothing else matters. But from a fan perspective, it has to be said that it's an exciting time and there's excitement and optimism about what can come from this season if we can maintain the form that we're currently showing. So that's a wrap on this episode of the Talk Villa podcast. A big thank you for listening. I really appreciate you taking the time to tune in. Please subscribe to the pod or channel depending on where you're listening. That's either on Apple Podcasts, Spotify or YouTube. Give the episode a like or leave a review if you've enjoyed it. Sign up to the Talk Villa Plus newsletter on Substack for ad-free Villa news, opinions and analysis delivered directly to you. And there's also an option of a paid subscription for bonus content. All the details will be in the description of this podcast, but for more, please go to talkvilla.substack.com and subscribe. So as I say, that's now 6 consecutive wins across all competitions as we continue to find ways to win and enjoy this rich vein of form that we're in. We're up to 3rd place in the Premier League table with a chance to cut the gap to league leaders Arsenal to 3 points this weekend with a win. But perhaps more importantly, as I mentioned, it's that opportunity to continue to create distance between ourselves and the chasing pack in our real objective of qualifying for Champions League football again. There was a lot of talk amongst pundits over the past week or so about our XG, our chance creation, our lack of goals inside the box as they questioned a possible over-reliance on goals from distance. But Villa put that to bed in midweek, and seeing Watkins in particular get back on the score sheet was a massive boost for us. Let's hope we can keep building on this. cause a real stir on Saturday by hopefully beating Arsenal. And I'll be back with another pod on Monday night to discuss that game. And as I say, hopefully another 3 points. But until then, up the Villa.